September 14th, 1943. Vauxhall Motors Workshop, Luton, England. The acetylene torch hisses like a serpent as Major Percy Hobart watches sparks cascade down the side of a perfectly functional Churchill Mark III tank. The men around him, engineers, designers, mechanics with oil-stained overalls, stand in uncomfortable silence. What they're doing feels like sacrilege. You don't cut a tank in half. You don't bisect 39 tons of British steel that's already passed inspection, already proven itself in North Africa, already earned its place on the battlefield. But Hobart isn't a conventional thinker. At 67, the major is too old for frontline command, too stubborn for retirement, and too brilliant to ignore. His eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed spectacles, track the torch's progress as it carves through armor plate like butter. Around him, the workshop smells of hot metal, machine oil, and the acrid tang of welding flux. "Sir," ventures Lieutenant Commander Dennis Burney, a naval engineer whose presence here is itself unusual. "The structural integrity is precisely what we're testing." Hobart interrupts, not unkindly. His voice carries the authority of a man who once commanded Egypt's mobile force, who helped develop Britain's armored doctrine before the brass sidelined him for being too aggressive, too imaginative, too dangerous to conventional thinking. The torch dies, the tank stands bisected, its turret removed, its hull split between fighting compartment and engine section. To the uninitiated, it looks like vandalism. To Hobart and his team, it's the future. The war has taught brutal lessons. In 1942, Canadian forces bled on the beaches of Dieppe, pinned down by German pillboxes that laughed at conventional weapons. Rommel's Atlantic Wall grows stronger every day, hundreds of miles of reinforced concrete bunkers, each one a fortress that can chew up entire companies. Artillery shells bounce off. Tank rounds penetrate but don't neutralize. Machine gun fire is like rain on stone. The problem isn't British courage. God knows the Tommies have courage. The problem is German concrete. Hobart circles the bisected Churchill, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous workshop. Behind him, technical drawings cover every available wall schematics for swimming tanks, bridge layers, fascine carriers, his funnies, the other officers call them, these specialized armor vehicles. Some say it mockingly. The tank crews who'll depend on them take the designs very seriously indeed. Modular design, Hobart says, running his hand along the cut edge. Each component independent but compatible. Turret, hull, power plant all interchangeable. He looks up at Burney. "Your flame projector, show me again." Burney unfolds a blueprint across the Churchill's glasses plate. The design is elegant in its simplicity. A flame gun replacing the tank's hull machine gun, fed by a fuel trailer towed behind. Conventional flamethrowers, the Crocodile's predecessors, carry their fuel aboard, maybe 80 gallons. Dangerous, temperamental, short-ranged. Burney's system is different. Armored trailer, 400 gallons, nitrogen pressure instead of cordite, and range, dear God, the range. 120 yards, Burney says quietly. Sustained flame, 48 seconds if fired continuously, but we recommend short bursts, conservation of fuel. Hobart does the mathematics instantly. 120 yards, that's 4 football pitches. That's the distance from a pillbox's machine gun ports to the edge of effective small arms fire. That's the exact killing zone where infantry dies. A corporal approaches with tea, proper British tea, strong enough to strip paint, served in chipped mugs that have seen better days. Hobart accepts his without looking. Still studying the drawings, in the corner, a wireless crackles with distant BBC reports. Montgomery is pushing up Italy. The Red Army bleeds the Wehrmacht white at Kursk. Churchill and Roosevelt are planning something big, everyone knows it. Though no one speaks of it, Fortress Europe won't storm itself. The fuel composition, Hobart asks. Petroleum-based. Bernie replies, not napalm, that's American. Our mixture diesel, petrol, tar. It clings, burns at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. Concrete doesn't burn, of course, but steel does. Men do. Oxygen itself combusts. The lieutenant commander doesn't elaborate. He doesn't need to. Everyone in this workshop has seen intelligence photographs from the Eastern Front. What German flamethrowers did at Sevastopol. What Soviet flame tanks accomplished at Stalingrad. Fire doesn't just kill. It terrorizes. It breaks wills. It empties bunkers more effectively than any artillery bombardment. But fire is also indiscriminate. The British Army isn't the Wehrmacht. There are rules, conventions, codes of conduct that separate civilization from barbarism, or so the generals insist. Hobart knows better. War is barbarism. The only question is whether you win or lose. Production timeline, he asks. If approved today, 6 months for the first squadron, 12 for full deployment. Hobart checks his watch. 1,500 hours. In London, the Combined Operations Headquarters is meeting to review his proposals. Swimming Shermans, armored bulldozers, bridge-laying Churchill AVREs, and now this flame-spewing monster that some staff officer will inevitably call inhumane. As if there's a humane way to reduce a concrete fortress filled with teenagers conscripted into Wehrmacht uniforms. The workshop doors burst open. A dispatch rider. Motorcycle helmet under arm. Mud splattered from the road. Major Hobart signal from COHQ. Priority Alpha. Hobart tears open the envelope, reads once, reads again. His expression doesn't change, but those who know him recognize the slight relaxation around his eyes. Approval, funding, authorization for immediate development. Gentlemen, he says quietly, folding the signal into his breast pocket. We have work to do. Lieutenant Commander Bernie, I want your flame system mounted and tested within the fortnight. The Churchill hull we've been modifying becomes Prototype 01. Nickname suggestions. Crocodile, someone says from the back, a tank fitter, old enough to have served in the last war. Patient hunter, strikes from water, jaws that don't let go. Hobart considers this. Nods. Crocodile, appropriate. Dinosaurs for a new age. Outside, September rain begins pattering against the workshop's corrugated roof. Inside, welders fire up their torches again. The bisected Churchill awaits its transformation. And across the channel, German soldiers continue pouring concrete, building bunkers, creating killing zones. They don't know it yet, but they're building their own crematoriums. March 22nd, 1944. Brantspeth Castle Ranges, County Durham. The Churchill Crocodile squats in morning mist like something prehistoric. Its armored bulk barely visible through the fog rolling off the North Pennines. Behind it, connected by a 20-foot articulated coupling. The fuel trailer hunches low, an elongated coffin filled with 400 gallons of death. Sergeant Thomas Ginger Hebden, flame gunner of a squadron, 141st Regiment Royal Armored Corps, peers through his observation slit and feels his breakfast threatening rebellion. He's 32 years old, survived Dunkirk, watched friends burn at Gazala when a Panzer round penetrated their Grant's fuel tank. Fire is his nightmare. Now fire is his weapon. Traverse left. Crackles the intercom. Lieutenant Harold Gale's voice, calm as Sunday tea despite what they're about to do. Target concrete emplacement, 200 yards. Ginger's hands move automatically, adjusting the flame gun's traverse wheel. The projector is surprisingly compact. Looks almost like an oversized Bren gun mounted in the hull gunner's position where the Bisa machine gun used to be. Simple mechanics. Pulled trigger, pressurized nitrogen drives fuel through the nozzle. Igniter sparks. Physics handles the rest. Simple, terrifying. Through the periscope, Ginger can see their target, a replica German pillbox. Exact specifications copied from intelligence photographs of the Atlantic Wall. 10 feet of reinforced concrete, gun ports 18 inches wide, the kind of fortification that stopped the Canadians cold at Dieppe. They can hold up an entire battalion. Behind the firing line, observers crowd the wooden tower War Office officials, American liaison officers, a photographer from the Imperial War Museum. This is more than a test. This is theater, proof of concept, justification for the thousands of pounds sterling already spent. "Stand by," Lieutenant Gale says. Ginger's finger finds the trigger. His other hand rests on the pressure gauge, must maintain 375 psi. No more, no less. Too little pressure and the flame dies at 50 yards. Too much and the trailer coupling might rupture, dumping burning fuel across the Churchill's engine deck. Neither outcome is optimal. As the manual dryly notes, fire. Ginger squeezes. For a heartbeat. Nothing. Then the crocodile roars. Flame erupts from the projector like dragon's breath. A solid stream of liquid fire that arcs across the proving ground with terrible beauty. It's not the flickering orange of a bonfire. It's white hot at the core, fierce enough to make Ginger squint even through the observation slit's protective glass. The flame reaches, stretches, touches the pillbox. And the pillbox disappears. Not destroyed, not damaged. It simply vanishes behind a wall of fire so intense that concrete itself begins to glow. The flame clings, spreads, finds every crevice and gun port. Ginger holds the trigger for 3 seconds, the recommended burst, then releases. The flame dies. The pillbox remains, now wreathed in oily black smoke, its surface scorched and cracked. "Effect on target?" Lieutenant Gale asks. "Surface damage visible," replies the observation post. "Proceeding with temperature measurements." But Ginger isn't watching instruments. He's watching the pillbox's interior, visible now through heat shimmer. They'd placed temperature sensors inside, positioned mannequins wearing Wehrmacht uniforms, arranged weapons and ammunition in realistic configuration. Scientific, controlled. Nothing like actual combat, where the mannequins scream. The engineers approach with their instruments, moving cautiously around concrete still radiating heat. Their readings confirm what everyone already knows. Interior temperature exceeded 800 degrees Celsius. The mannequins are melted slag. The ammunition cooked off. Any man inside would have died in seconds, not from flame directly, but from superheated air that flash boils lungs, from oxygen depletion, from sheer terror as his bunker transforms into a furnace. "Next target," comes the order. Prepared defensive position, infantry company strength. The Churchill rumbles forward, its flame trailer following obediently. Ahead lies a warren of trenches and foxholes, sandbag emplacements, barbed wire obstacles, everything the German infantry uses to defend ground. More mannequins wait in firing positions, rifles aimed at imaginary enemies. This time, Ginger fires a traversing burst. The flame sweeps across the position like a scythe, 30 yards wide, turning entrenchments into crematoriums. Sandbag erupt into pyres. Barbed wire glows white-hot and melts. The earth itself burns where fuel is splashed and pooled. 5 seconds. That's all it takes to neutralize an entire company defensive position. In the observation tower, someone vomits. The sound is distinct, even over the Churchill's engine. No one comments. No one blames him. They're all imagining the same thing, what this weapon will do when the targets aren't mannequins. By noon, they've exhausted the test protocol. 12 targets, 12 successes. The crocodile's flame reaches 120 yards consistently, sometimes 130 in favorable wind. The trailer coupling holds despite vibration and recoil. The nitrogen pressure system maintains stability. Every mechanical system functions within specifications. Lieutenant Gale dismounts, face flushed from the Churchill's interior heat. He's a schoolteacher in civilian life, taught history to boys who are now fighting across Europe. He understands the weapon's historical precedent, Greek fire, medieval siege warfare, the flamethrowers of the last war's trenches. But understanding doesn't make acceptance easier. Recommendation, asks Colonel Wilfred Neville, commanding officer of the 141st Regiment. He's old cavalry, transitioned to armor when horses became obsolete. He doesn't like the crocodile, considers it ungentlemanly, unsporting, but he's pragmatic enough to recognize necessity. Effective beyond expectations. Gale reports formally. Crew training requires emphasis on fuel conservation and target selection. Psychological impact on operators may need monitoring. That last part isn't in the manual. Gale added it himself, watching Ginger's hands shake during post-firing inspection. The sergeant is solid, experienced, brave. But manning a crocodile isn't about bravery. It's about accepting what you become, not a soldier, but an executioner, dispensing industrial-scale death at ranges where you can hear the screaming, assuming anyone survives long enough to scream. The American liaison officer, Captain James Hartford, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, approaches with notebook in hand. The Americans are developing their own flame tanks, experimenting with napalm instead of petroleum diesel mixtures, comparing notes, sharing horror. Your fuel consumption rate, Hartford asks. 48 seconds continuous firing. Gale replies, we recommend 3-second bursts, 16 attacks per trailer load, assuming no wastage. Hartford does the mathematics silently, then whistles low. 16 bunkers per tank. Jesus Christ. How many crocodiles are you building? That's classified. Colonel Neville interrupts smoothly, but sufficient for operational requirements. The real answer, which Hartford probably already knows through back channels, is nearly 800 conversions planned. The Churchill Crocodile won't replace standard tanks. It'll supplement them, provide specialized capability for the bunker cracking, position burning, fortress storming work that no other weapon can accomplish. Because across the Channel, in occupied France, German engineers are still building, still reinforcing, still creating the defensive networks that must be broken when the invasion comes. And the invasion is coming. Everyone knows it now. The only questions are where and when. As the observers disperse, as the crocodile crews begin post-exercise maintenance, Ginger Hebden sits on the Churchill's hull and lights a cigarette with shaking hands. The irony isn't lost on him, using fire to calm nerves after spending the morning weaponizing it. Around him, the proving ground smolders, blackened earth marking where flame touched down. He thinks about Dieppe, about the boys who died against bunkers that wouldn't break, about the invasion that's coming, the beaches that'll run red, the pillboxes waiting behind mine-sown sand. The crocodile isn't pretty, isn't honorable, isn't the war poets write about, but it works. Sometimes. That's all that matters. Section 3. The Normandy Baptism. Previous section text. Continues seamlessly from this section. July 18th, 1944. Village of Cagny, Normandy, France. The Churchill Crocodile named Broadsword idles behind a shattered stone wall. Its engine note a low growl, barely audible, over the thunder of British artillery pounding German positions 2 miles east. Lance Corporal William Washer, driver, can feel each impact through the tank's hull, rhythmic tremors that rattle his teeth and send dust cascading from Broadsword's interior fittings. Beside him, in the co-driver's position, Sergeant Hebden transferred from training cadre to operational squadron 3 weeks ago. Methodically checks his flame projector for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Ginger, she's fine," says Trooper David Walsh from the turret, his voice tinny through the intercom. Walsh is the gunner, responsible for the 75 cannon that gives Broadsword its secondary punch. "You've checked everything twice." "Rather check twice than cook once," Hebden mutters, but his hands still. Through the driver's periscope, Washer watches British infantry, Shropshire Light Infantry, by their shoulder flashes moving up the rubble-choked street in loose formation. They carry themselves with the cautious precision of men who've learned that carelessness kills. Normandy has been teaching that lesson for 6 weeks now. Written in blood across hedgerows and villages, paid for in yards. Operation Goodwood. They're calling this offensive. 3 armored divisions crashing toward Caen, breaking through German defenses, exploitation and pursuit. That's the plan. Anyway, plans rarely survive contact with the Wehrmacht. "Broadsword, this is Sabre 6. Lieutenant Colonel James Monroe's voice. Crisp despite static. "Move to phase line Charlie and await infantry. Enemy strong point confirmed, farmhouse complex. Estimated platoon strength. Machine guns. Possibly anti-tank. Your show." Sabre 6, Broadsword, Roger. "Moving now. Lieutenant Peter Young, 23 years old. Oxford history degree. 10 weeks in combat gives the order. Driver, advance. Ginger, you'll have priority of fire. David, cover our flanks." The Churchill lurches forward, fuel trailer obediently following. Washer steers carefully, avoiding rubble that could throw a track, scanning for mines that the engineers supposedly cleared. Supposedly. The village of Cagney is a corpse, buildings reduced to skeletal walls, cobblestone streets cratered by shells, the church steeple lying across what was once the market square. Wehrmacht snipers killed 3 men here yesterday. Today, it's eerily quiet. Too quiet. "Contact front," Walsh shouts. "Church ruins. 11 o'clock, 200 yards. The MG-42 opens up first, its distinctive buzzsaw snarl splitting the morning air. Tracers walk toward Broadsword like deadly fireflies. They spark harmlessly off the Churchill's armor, but the infantry behind scatter, pressing into doorways and craters. A corporal doesn't move fast enough. The machine gun finds him, puppet strings him into stillness. "Target identified," Young says, voice tight. "Ginger, you have the church." Hebden's hands move with the precision of a concert pianist. Traverse right, elevation up 3 degrees. Pressure gauge reading 380 psi perfect. Through his periscope, he can see the church ruins clearly, 3 walls still standing. Roof collapsed. Perfect cover for German defenders. The MG-42 fires from a window that used to hold stained glass. He thinks about that window for a moment. Thinks about Sunday masses, about French families in their finest clothes, about baptisms and weddings, and all the ordinary human moments that happened here before steel came calling. Then he squeezes the trigger. The flame erupts, a torrent of liquid fire that crosses 200 yards in under 2 seconds. It flows through the church window like water finding its level, spreads through the interior with terrible efficiency. The MG-42 stops abruptly, not suppressed, but silenced. For a moment, the church becomes a furnace, flames visible through every opening. black smoke boiling skyward. A figure emerges from the side entrance, Wehrmacht uniform blazing. He runs 5 steps before collapsing. No one shoots him. There's no need. He's already dead. Just doesn't know it yet. Good effect on target. Young reports, voice flat. Driver, continue advance. The farmhouse complex lies another 300 yards ahead, arranged in a rough square main house, barn, 2 outbuildings, solid Norman construction, stone walls 2 feet thick, small windows that make perfect firing ports. Intelligence reports classified it as a strong point 3 days ago. This morning's reconnaissance, paid for with 2 dead scout car crewmen, confirmed it. Estimated strength 30 to 40 German infantry. Dug in, fortified, determined. The kind of position that could hold up a battalion for days or minutes if broadsword does its job. Infantry reports ready, crackles the radio. On your signal. Young doesn't hesitate. Ginger, systematic engagement. Start with the barn largest structure, most likely command post. Work counterclockwise. Hebden adjusts his aim. The barn is 200 yards out, its doors closed, its hayloft windows shuttered. Somewhere inside, German soldiers are waiting, boys from Bavaria or Prussia, conscripts or volunteers, men with families and histories and futures they desperately want to see. Somewhere inside, officers are studying maps, planning fields of fire, preparing to kill as many British soldiers as possible before dying themselves. War reduces everything to geometry. Angles of fire, ranges, target priorities. Hebden fires. The flame reaches out, touches the barn doors, flows through gaps in the wood. The structure doesn't explode. That's Hollywood fantasy. Instead, it simply fills with fire. Orange-white brilliance visible through every crack and crevice. The hayloft ignites, dry summer hay becoming explosive tinder. Within seconds, the entire barn is ablaze. The farmhouse is next. Hebden traverses, fires again. This time, he directs the flame through ground floor windows, methodical as a craftsman. 3-second burst, pause, adjust, another burst. The farmhouse interior becomes hell incarnate. Flames lick from windows, ignite curtains, char wooden beams. The building doesn't collapse, Norman stone doesn't burn, but everything inside does. A German soldier appears on the 2nd floor, framed in a window, rifle in hand. He aims at broadsword, fires twice. The rounds ping harmlessly off armor. Then he realizes what he's shooting at the tank, with the flame projector still glowing orange hot, and his rifle drops. He doesn't jump, doesn't run, just stands there, watching the flames climb the stairs toward him. Hebden looks away, keeps working. The outbuilding's next, systematic and thorough. The fuel gauge shows half empty now. 8 attacks delivered. 8 targets burning. Efficient, economical, professional. Behind broadsword, British infantry advances through the smoke. Rifles ready, bayonets fixed. They clear the burning buildings with grenades and small arms fire. Finishing what flame started. It's ugly work. Necessary work. The kind of fighting that doesn't make newsreels. The battle for the farmhouse complex lasts 11 minutes. From first flame to final clearance. British casualties 1 killed, 3 wounded. German casualties estimated 40 killed or wounded. 12 captured men who emerged from cellars with hands raised. Faces blackened by smoke. Eyes showing the peculiar blankness of those who've experienced something beyond normal combat horror. Broadsword, well done. Monroe radios. Reform with squadron. We're pushing to the next objective. Lieutenant Young acknowledges, orders the advance. But inside the Churchill, no one speaks. The intercom crackles with empty static. Outside, the farmhouse burns, adding its smoke to the pall covering Normandy's summer sky. The dead lie where they fell, British and German alike. Democracy and fascism rendered equally indistinguishable by violence. Washer drives mechanically. following the tank ahead. Walsh traverses the turret, scanning for threats, seeing only destruction. Young studies his map, plotting the next phase line, the next strong point, the next target that needs burning. And Hebden sits at his flame projector, hands steady now, checking pressure gauges and fuel levels with the detachment of a man who's discovered something terrible about himself. He's good at this. Very good. The precision comes naturally. The target assessment, the controlled application of overwhelming force. He's found his calling in the worst possible work. The trailer bounces over rubble, still 3/4 full. Plenty of fuel remaining. Plenty more positions to burn. The war stretches ahead through France, Belgium, Holland, into Germany itself. Miles of bunkers and fortifications, pillboxes and strong points, all waiting for fire. Broadsword rumbles forward, following the arrow of battle, trailing smoke and ashes. Behind them, Cagsney burns. Tomorrow, another village will burn. And the day after, another still. This is liberation. This is what it costs. Section 4. The Price of Flame. Previous section text. Continues seamlessly from this section. March 24th, 1945. Wesel, Germany. East bank of the Rhine River. The dawn comes gray and cold, filtered through smoke that hasn't cleared since the RAF's bombers departed 3 hours ago. Sergeant Hebden promoted after Normandy, decorated after the Scheldt, now commanding his own crocodile named Hellfire, watches the ruins of Wesel through his periscope and sees the end of something. Not the war. The war will end soon enough. Everyone knows it now. Hitler's Reich is collapsing, squeezed between east and west, bleeding out in bunkers and basements across Germany. What's ending is Hebden himself, the part of him that used to feel. Target sector is the waterfront, crackles Major Richard Gosling's voice over the squadron net. Sellers converted to defensive positions. Intel says Fallschirmjäger paratroopers. They won't quit easy. Fallschirmjäger, Germany's elite. The same bastards who held Monte Cassino, who turned every Italian town into a fortress, who understand that defensive warfare is about making the enemy pay for every yard in blood. Wesel sits on the Rhine's eastern bank, a medieval city now reduced to geometric rubble by 97,000 Allied bombs. Somewhere in that moonscape, German paratroopers wait in basement strongpoints, machine gun nests built from brick and hate, positions designed to shred British infantry crossing the river. But the river's already crossed. The assault boats made it over at 0200 hours. Engineers behind them, assembling pontoon bridges, armor streaming across to exploit the breakthrough. All according to plan, except nobody told the Fallschirmjäger that they've already lost. They're still fighting, still killing, still making each block cost. Hellfire, move up. Gosling orders. Support 2nd Commando Brigade. They're hung up on bunkers. Waterfront District. Burn them out. Hellfire, acknowledged. Hebden's voice is professionally calm, empty of everything except military courtesy. His crew knows that tone. Trooper Jack Morrison, driver, 20 years old, from Manchester. Corporal Bill Stevens, gunner, veteran of the Italian campaign, drinks too much when they're in reserve. Lance Corporal Peter Quinn, loader and radio operator, used to be a postman, still writes letters home describing the war like it's something heroic. They don't talk much anymore. What's there to say? The Churchill navigates Wesel's streets, or what used to be streets. Now they're canyons of debris. Building facades collapsed into roadways, craters filled with freezing water. The smell is overwhelming cordite, burning wood, burst sewage pipes, and underneath it all, the sweet, sick stench of death. Bodies are everywhere. Wehrmacht soldiers, civilians who didn't evacuate, British paratroopers from the airborne assault. War doesn't discriminate in its leavings. Contact front, Stevens reports. Basement position, 50 yards. Muzzle flashes visible. Through his periscope, Hebden spots it a cellar entrance. Stairs descending below street level. Sandbagged entrance. MG-42 firing from the shadows. Smart positioning. The machine gun has excellent fields of fire across the street. Can engage infantry at 300 yards. And the basement provides overhead protection from artillery. Traditional assault would require infantry to suppress the position, while engineers move forward with demolition charges or satchel bombs. Men would die, maybe 5, maybe 20, depending on German marksmanship and British luck. Or Hebden can burn it in 5 seconds. He doesn't hesitate anymore, doesn't think about the men in the basement, whether they're volunteers or conscripts, whether they have children waiting in Hamburg or Berlin, whether they joined the Fallschirmjäger for glory or got drafted into paratroop units because the Reich was running out of bodies. Traverse, elevation. Pressure good, fire. The flame pours down the cellar stairs like liquid malevolence, following gravity, filling the basement with fire and superheated gas. The MG-42 stops. Smoke boils up from the entrance, black and oily. Somewhere below, men are dying in ways that Hebden has trained himself not to imagine. Good effect, he reports. Target neutralized. They advance. Another basement position. Another burst of flame. Another silence where machine gun fire used to be. The mathematics are brutally simple. Hellfire carries 400 gallons of fuel, enough for 16 3-second bursts. Wesel contains perhaps 60 hardened defensive positions, 4 crocodiles in the squadron, 64 potential attacks, sufficient capacity with margin for error. War has become arithmetic. By noon, Hellfire's trailer is half empty, and the waterfront district is a smoking wasteland. The commandos advance behind them, clearing buildings room by room, occasionally calling for flame support when they encounter positions too strong for small arms and grenades. Each time, Hebden obliges. Efficient, professional, empty. They're refueling from a supply vehicle when Morrison breaks the silence. Sarge, how many you figure we've killed since D-Day? I mean, total. It's the question, none of the mask. The elephant in the Churchill's cramped interior. Hebden considers lying, deflecting, pulling rank. Instead, he tells the truth. No idea. Hundreds, maybe more. Doesn't matter. Doesn't it? Morrison's voice cracks slightly. He's seen too much. This boy from Manchester. They all have. We're burning them. Sarge, we don't even see them. Just buildings going up, smoke coming out, sometimes screaming, mostly not. It's not like real fighting. Stevens, older and harder, intercepts. It's war, Jack. You think the blokes in Bomber Command see the faces of everyone they kill. You think artillery crews count bodies. We're just closer to it, that's all. Still killing, still necessary. Is it? Quinn asks quietly. Necessary. War's almost over. Everyone knows it. Hitler's finished. Why do they keep fighting? Hebden could explain about orders and duty, about German military discipline, about how soldiers don't get to choose when wars end. He could talk about the alternative British infantry casualties, the boys who died taking these positions with rifles and grenades. He could justify every flame burst with mathematics. 1 German machine gun nest killed equals 5 British lives saved. Instead, he says, because that's what we do. We burn bunkers. That's our job. Their job is to defend them. Neither side gets to quit until headquarters says so. The refueling finishes in silence. They mount up, move forward, back into Vessel's burning heart. The Rhine flows past, carrying debris and bodies, indifferent to which army they served. Across the river, British supply vehicles are already rolling over pontoon bridges, bringing forward the fuel and ammunition needed to sustain the advance deeper into Germany. The next position is a hospital basement, or was a hospital. Before the bombs came, the Fallschirmjäger have fortified it anyway, turned operating theaters into fighting positions, positioned machine guns where surgeons used to save lives. The irony would be funny if anything was funny anymore. Hellfire, engage, comes the order. Hebden adjusts his aim toward the basement entrance. His finger rests on the trigger. Somewhere in that basement, German soldiers are checking their weapons, counting ammunition, preparing to kill as many British soldiers as possible before dying themselves. They've chosen their ground, accepted their fate, decided that this basement in this ruined city is worth their lives. Who is Hebden to argue? He fires. The flame reaches down, fills the spaces where men are, transforms the basement into a crematorium. The job takes 3 seconds. Professional, efficient, utterly complete. That evening, as Hellfire loggers with the squadron behind captured German positions, Hebden performs his routine maintenance, checks the flame projector for carbon buildup, inspects the trailer coupling for stress fractures, verifies nitrogen pressure systems. The work is meditative, requires attention but not thought. His hands move automatically. Muscle memory from 2 years operating crocodiles. Around him, the squadron settles in, crews brewing tea, smoking cigarettes, writing letters home about anything except what they actually do. Nobody talks about the burning. Nobody mentions the screaming that sometimes carries through armor plate. Nobody calculates the body count. Major Gosling appears, making his rounds, checking on his men. He stops at Hellfire, accepts the tea Morrison offers, surveys his crew with eyes that have seen everything and forgiven nothing, especially himself. "How many attacks today?" he asks. 13, sir. Hebden reports. All successful engagements. No mechanical failures. Good. Good work. Gosling sips his tea, grimaces at its strength. Intelligence says the war might be over in weeks, month at most. Berlin's surrounded. The Americans are racing us to the Elbe. Whole thing's collapsing. That's good, sir. Is it? Gosling asks. And for a moment, his command mask slips, revealing something raw underneath. What do we do after? Sergeant, go home. Back to whatever we did before, pretend we didn't spend 2 years burning men alive. Pin on our medals and tell stories at the pub. Hebden has no answer. None of them do. Gosling finishes his tea, sets down the mug carefully. We did what was necessary. Remember that. Every position we burned was one our infantry didn't have to take with bayonets. Every bunker we neutralized saved British lives. The mathematics work. Sergeant, they have to work. Because if they don't, he doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. Because if the mathematics don't work, if the killing isn't justified, if the burning wasn't necessary, if there was another way, then they're not soldiers. There's something else. Something without a name they want to say aloud. The major moves on to the next tank. Hebden returns to his maintenance. Morrison brews more tea. Stevens cleans the 75 mm cannon that they barely use anymore. Why bother with high explosive when flame does the job better? Quinn writes his letter home, describing liberation and bravery and all the comfortable lies that let families sleep at night. Above them, the stars emerge through clearing smoke. Somewhere to the east, German forces are regrouping, preparing tomorrow's defense. laying mines and sighting machine guns and doing everything soldiers do when they know they're losing, but can't stop fighting. Tomorrow, hellfire will burn them, and the day after, and the day after that, until the mathematics finally balance and the war declares itself finished. This is victory. This is what it takes. Sergeant Hebden checks his flame projector one final time, ensuring everything is perfect for tomorrow's killing. His hands don't shake anymore. That's the worst part. They should shake. They don't.